So during the full-scale invasion, about 18 gigawatt of electricity generating capacity was occupied, including Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. So Kakhovka and Dniprovska hydroelectric power plants and Zmeyivska and Tepilska thermal power plants were destroyed. Losses of energy sector estimated approximately $40 billion, and Ukraine will need approximately $50 billion to rebuild the energy sector. So 73% of thermal power plants destroyed. So actually, that was, no, yesterday DTEC was attacked, and it was, there was some damages at thermal power plant. So far, Russian terrorists destroyed over 50% of electricity production, decreasing generation from 55 gigawatt to 20-something gigawatt. So, gentlemen, we would love to have each of you 5 minutes before we get to interaction and asking question from your point of view, what the current situation with the energy sector of Ukraine.
And the outlook for the rest of the year.
Volodymyr, please.
Hello. The current situation is such that we lost, in terms of generation, we lost capacity which is equivalent to Netherlands in 3 months, or it's equivalent to combined consumption of Slovakia and Baltic states. So just for you to grasp the scale and why actually we have this controlled power cuts all the time. 9 gigawatts is a huge number. Campaign against electric system started in September 2022, and then since October it was a series of vicious attacks, absolutely unprecedented scale. Last year they destroyed or damaged all thermal and hydropower plants and half of transmission substations. For the winter of 23-24, we collectively as energy sector managed to recover quite a substantial bit of both transmission and generation assets, so that winter was safe in terms of energy security. It was challenging. We had deficit. We had to use emergency assistance sometimes, but we avoided disconnections of customers. By the moment when Russians started series of attacks again, and since March 22nd, as I mentioned, we lost 9 gigawatts, half of our generation capability. And even in the summer, when we have 40-45% smaller consumption than in winter, we have deficit of power that cannot be covered by imports of electricity from Europe. And from Europe, just to remind you, we have ability to transport around 1.7 gigawatts, which is roughly or almost 2 nuclear units equivalent. But even that is not enough to avoid power cuts in the summer. So, just to summarize, we faced biggest electric challenge in the history of humanity. There were no such scale of damages since World War II for the electric system, but at that time, electric system did not play such a strong role in the life of every citizen. We were not that strongly connected to, or people were not that strongly connected to electricity as they are now. And of course, Russians do that not to make us sit without power for 4 hours a day or 8 hours a day. Their plan is to destroy power system to initiate full-fledged long-term national blackout, which would cause catastrophic consequences for Ukrainians, for economy, and for our ability to fight. So this is one of the dimensions of the war, battle in the energy sector. And unfortunately, we have to deal with the reality that attacks will probably continue. And we have to be ready, and we have to recover as much of generation as possible before winter. We have to ask for extra air defense to protect what we recover. But also, we have to roll out new generation facilities to make sure that if Russians undertake these attacks, they cannot concentrate on 10 or 15 big power plants, but they would have to deal with hundreds of smaller ones.
This is what we talk about.
And this is where we get to decentralization of the generation. And we have to do it not after the victory, not after the war, but right now.
Right now.
We need to start right now. We don't need to chase fairy tales about, you know, hundreds of billions of investments into energy sector or hundreds of gigawatts to be built. This, I would be very practical if you asked me. And we need to roll out few gigawatts of generation to substitute for the losses that we incurred just recently, and that we will not be able to recover in the next 2 to 3 years. This is my assessment. Yeah.
Thank you. Dmitro?
Thank you. Hello to everyone. I would continue about the reason why we are in such situation, why in a previous wave attacks from October 2022 till February 23, there was no such big damage. The main reason is insufficient munition for the air defense. What we have right now, what we had and still have right now, it's an ability of air defense to intercept incoming missiles from Russian planes or drones or from Russian ships. It appeared that for every missile that we have right now, 5, 6 Russian missiles are coming in. So, and the reason is not improving, unfortunately, and this situation is not improving, unfortunately. Just give you an example, yesterday, one of the few thermal generation plants that were operating was damaged again, and one of the units was almost destroyed due to the explosion of coal dust, just because there was a direct hit of a missile that arrived from Russian ship. And the reason why it was not intercepted, because the load of the air defense was 2 missiles less than number of incoming missiles. It's easy. It's impossible to intercept developed missiles with stones and wooden sticks. Just impossible.
Right.
So it's a very strict mathematics. If 10 missiles are coming in, you need at least 12 missiles in the air defense, even if you have it. And it appears that in some places we have air defense, but we don't have missiles. It's just empty shells, just empty tubes, and it's impossible. So even if we start recovering, we start repairing, there is no means right now to protect the recovered units. And that's a power plant that I mentioned. We already recovered those units that were damaged this time, for the fourth time.
That's
the fourth time. Basically, we had 2 attacks in March, 2 in April, 1 in May, 2 in June. Basically, all our 5 plants were attacked 4 or 5 times. What I'm talking about was attacked 4 times. That was the 5th attack. It was the 4th attack, and just they killed the units. It will be impossible to recover this unit by the beginning of the winter season, because the boiler was just exploded because of the dust. So forget about this unit. It's impossible to do something like that. That's why I'm saying that we can speak about without restoration, recovery. This is definitely we should do, because this is the only choice that we have right now. The recovery of the damaged thermal generation, CHPs and hydro plants, this is the cheapest and the quickest way to be prepared for the next winter. However, another very important condition to go through the winter is to protect what we will recover. Otherwise, there will be no possible way to go through the winter if in air defense systems that we have will not have missiles. Just impossible. Second thing, also following what Vladimir started, is regarding the speed of rollout and cost of rollout alternative generation. First of all, we should understand that 1 gigawatt is $1 billion of every single type of generation that you can think about. Solar, wind, doesn't matter, roughly. That may be less, more, but 1 gigawatt is 1 billion. In Ukraine, there is no capital in private hands. The capital only goes through the government to government.
Correct.
Private sector is zero right now regarding the capital. We have several reasons of that, for which we are speaking for more than 2 years already. First of all, means of de-risking, so basically war insurance. Everybody says right now we have war insurance. Okay, coverage, scope, or the volume, $1 million. Are you kidding? We need more than 1 billion for 1 gigawatt. It's impossible to build something if you don't have a war insurance right now, or you have, as everybody says, but the coverage available, 1 million. But you need 1 billion.
It's nothing.
It's nothing. There is no war insurance. This is the third year we are talking about this. Second, of course, it's clear that money right now goes from government to government, G to G. And we are talking about the gas turbines, for example. I think that all state companies that that are in state ownership right now got some money from EBRD, IFC, some money for the construction of gas turbines. Even in cases when they are not in the energy business and they have no idea what to do with this money, have no idea how to run them. There are some examples when some gas turbine was installed already. The time that was spent for installation was 14 months. 14 months for installation of gas turbine. And you know what? It does not operate yet. Why? Because there is no team that may sell the salary of this gas turbine on the market. They call us and ask, could you give us the price curve? Are you kidding? It's just ridiculous inability to deploy something in practice, in reality. Right now, I understand there is a big difference from the promise to give money, the donation of money, and the real spending of that money delivering some results. State sector could not deliver results quickly, in time, except some few exceptions. We have some. But in general, it's just total managerial inability to do something in time. And fairy tales about how much we will do in the future. And this is the harsh reality that we see. So all plans stays at the plans. And believe me, in 3 months, in 4 months, in 5 months, they will be still the plans. And from practical point of view, all of us will have disconnection just because the money that was given to some state-owned companies will not be spent. Why? Because there is no organizational ability to spend them. No experience, no knowledge, and no desire, no incentive to do this. And I think this is the second biggest issue or problem that we have in addition to air defense. So first of all, air defense, an ability to protect what we built. And second, organizational, institutional ability to deliver something in reality. Until the private sector is involved, there will be no results. And we have the proven situation about this. So just stress on those two issues. And if those are not being resolved, we will have a very, very harsh winter, very long hours without power, and then we will complain, but we'll need to complain only on ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you. Alexei. And we actually going to get back to the questions, and this is what I liked when we get on the Zoom call with Dmitro. I was like, I'll be honest, and I was like, this is what we want to do. I mean, we want people to say what the real situation is, and we're going to get back to Dmitro and Vladimir. So, Alexei, please.
Yeah, I'll be honest too. Like these two gentlemen, and like honestly saying, like I would like to start from saying thank you to you both, and like to other top manager in energy sector, like in the ministry, regulator, in the office of president, in the parliament, to like everybody who's involved in managerial decision. Secondly, to all the workers who are working, risking their life or like overworking, like to provide us electricity, heat, and whatever. And also, like we have a lot of embassy people here and international, which taxpayers' money are spent here on energy sector, and there are a huge amount of team working in U.S. embassy, USAID, like World Bank, UNDP, many other, like European Commission, like whatever. Just not to, not to forget everybody. So just like thank you very much for providing us like with a lot of support in energy sector. This is like definitely like one of the front lines that we are trying to manage. Secondly, just to say something positive after some cruel reality and reality check from our colleagues, I would propose to put a bottle of champagne like after you come from this conference to the fridge and open it on the 25th of June, so in 4 days, cheering up for the start of the negotiation of the EU accession, like with Ukraine. So this is like a big achievement. Yeah, this is to all of the energy people and EU integration people. Yeah, so and like we have a huge amount of problems, and like our colleagues are very honest, but like indeed, like we will in the summer it doesn't feel like the cruel reality. I guess like it will be more hard during the winter time. But to give more complication to the energy sphere, like I will start from the EU accession. So we're starting the accession talks, and there is a cluster. So consists of 4 chapters. Sorry for this framework words, but like you need to know them. So the cluster called the Green Agenda Sustainable Connectivity. And it consists of 4 chapters: energy, environment and climate, transport, and networks. And we will start to implement and negotiate on the condition what we're doing. So like we need to have some kind of like a level playing field on legislation on this acquis, in order for us to be eligible to join the EU. Good news that like in the energy, we, according to the latest assessment of the EU Commission, we have 4 out of 5. So it's like very decent level. And like, believe me, like on the first day of our of the full-scale war, we disconnected from Russia and like joined the. So this is like the managerial, legal, technical job. So like we are capable of doing this, and Vladimir knows. I guess he will write a memorial book about this, how it was done. But like this framework will set to us, like you need to do more. Like you need to recover during the EU accession. So these 2 processes are merged together. So soon we will start the accession talks. There will be chief negotiator, vice prime minister for the accessions. There will be 35 negotiators on each chapter. So like I would highly recommend all the businesses to know who is your negotiator, to deliver some position paper, deliver red lines, because it won't be the negotiation in a classical way. Like it will be like the government will put the plan in which year they will implement this directive or this regulation, or which is very important, ask for derogation or exception that we will do after the accession. But like it's not like, oh, give us please like 2 years. Oh, okay, no. It's like literally you need to file a document by saying like in these 2, 4, or 5 years, we will do this and this and that, and how we will reach it. Yeah, yes, and like how many money do we need for implementing this. So this is like what businesses should know and what embassy should also direct support on creating this framework. Secondly, like my beloved topic is like Green Deal and climate, and like all those people who I've been reached by huge amount of colleagues saying, like far right won the election in many states, so Green Deal agenda it won't be there. It's wrong, fortunately or unfortunately for somebody. So European Commission was, I would say, critically ambitious toward the green agenda. Now they will just remain ambitious. Without a critical, they might reverse some of the position, but like we are still here with our climate change goal and environmental standards, and they are there, and we need to fill up this gap. And for us, there will be no excuses. So like how to do the build back better recovery. We need now to build back faster, but joining you, this is like I would say rocket science or a Nobel Prize winner, like how to do this. And
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we had our borders blocked and we had the problem with the agriculture sector? And because there were clashes, because our agriculture products are way lower in prices, and it was extremely damaging European grain producers because do you think that it's going to be the same issue with the energy? Because our energy production is way cheaper, and we're selling this energy way cheaper. It's like, what are your comments on that? Because I think that everyone is very reluctant. Okay, Ukraine is coming in, and the energy prices are lower. And like, any comments on that?
Like, saying off the records, like when Habeck and Baerbock, when they were just like campaigning to become a new member of the EU government, like 4 years ago, they come here as the campaigners, and we raise an issue of electricity, like import electricity and export, like selling electricity to Europe.
Correct.
And they told like we would never accept like you selling electricity from all outdated Soviet nuclear power station. So this was their position at that time. Currently, we see it's not the case because of the war, because like war like changed a lot of situation. What it will be next and how it will be, like it's really like hard to tell. But the economy of the process will be definitely up to my colleagues, because it's about business. Like we should understand that energy is like business where somebody is earning money, somebody is paying for this. And like it's about competitiveness of economy, and this is like a truly market, and we need to understand that the investor who will come here, they would like to have return on investment.
Cool.
And when energy prices are subsidized, I've been a politician, I know what is everything about subsidizing prices and caring about the like low income people. But like in energy and currently, like we need to do business, but like how to do business during the war, like this is really hard. I guess I will stop here and continue then on decentralization and many other issues.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there's, we could just, I'll just start with a general question, because were all three of you in Berlin at the conference? All of you there. So, let's just start on the topic of protection, where we are. That's pretty alarming that there still isn't adequate protection, so things could get worse, right? But from what I was seeing, that in Berlin, there was a lot of focus from the Western governments on obviously air defense and on the energy sector in particular. So is there much political movement, financial movement from the West then to provide more defense specifically for energy, especially after the Berlin conference?
The problem is that during the war, you need to quickly convert political will into real missiles and ammunition delivered at site, right? Same with the energy, with auto transformers we lost like half of them in 2022, and with many other things, with war risk insurance. So you need to convert political decisions into actions very quickly, and you cannot like apply procedures of peace times to war situations, because you'll be late. Okay. So practically, since January this year, the window of opportunity was opened to Russian military, and they unfortunately used it.
And this is, we're talking about the Tripilska.
We talk about everything. Look,
Every
almost every thermal and hydropower station in this country. Tripilska is just an episode. Tripilska is just near Kiev. That's why everyone knows about it. What about other stations? They are, the decarbonization path of Ukraine over the last 3 months was unprecedented, but I'm not sure everyone likes it. Because the result is, deficit of power. So my point is that there is obviously, and I was attending Berlin conference and my colleagues too, but we felt this political will to help.
Okay.
But the question is that the implementation should be days or weeks, not months or years. We need ammunition and air defense strengthening right now, because right now these power plants that are still alive are producing power. If we lose them tomorrow, like we lost yesterday, part of our capacities, then our traditional generation base is shrinking. With every attack, we lose for good or for a very long time 1, 2, or more units, meaning that they will be not available during next winter. So this air defense is the most critical part of the equation for us for the next winter. For the winters to come, the most critical factor would be air defense plus new generation.
Yeah, so
Alexei, Dmitro, sorry, go ahead.
Dmitry.
Yeah, we'll just build on that. Yeah, the good thing is that Berlin showed that still there is a political will to help. A bad thing is there is no institutional ability to do this very quickly. All Europe is not Ukraine-centric in general. The reality is that everybody moves in their own speed as usual. If you need to give a loan, for example, for recovery, that will take not weeks, it will take months. Nobody adjusts their procedures, for example, for the credit committees, compliance committees, to make it easier, quicker, and in time. Because nobody wants to take what? Responsibility. Why? Because somebody should take decision. The skill to take decisions quickly is absent. That's why we see months or years of obvious decisions that should be taken and they're not taken. So Berlin confirmed the same thing. If somebody believes that all those promises will be delivered in a 1 week or 2 or 3 or 5, take an example as again the missile for air defense. When the decision was taken by the U.S. Congress, how many months ago?
Yeah,
2 months ago.
There are no still missiles. They are still coming somewhere. So that's why, plus you should add again the unpreparedness of the industries, defense industries, energy industries, because Europe, as many other countries in the world, lived for many years in peace. Nobody is ready for such intense war. And in this case, quantity, as in the Second World War, wins against quality. 10 very good tanks are nothing against 1,000 tanks. Even cheap one. One very advanced missile is nothing against 10. Maybe not so precise missiles, but they are flying in. Plus, 3 years already, almost 2.5 years passed. They advanced. They also don't sit in the same place. They advanced. The Shaheds that was 2 years ago, that's right now, there's 2 different Shaheds. They have 6 antennas inside. It's impossible to jam them. The X101 or X55 has the video guidance already. So they see where they go, and they exactly hit the transformers or substations or the turbines, the meter to meter.
Great precision.
It's an excellent precision. That's why the main problem with this conversion of promises into real actions. And honestly, I don't see the encouraging kind of hints that that situation will change. Still, the process occupies everything, not the result.
I don't know what happened to my. Okay, is it working? So that's the point they were talking about. I 100% agree with Mitro. We were talking about, look, the people who are making decision, there is a political will. The people who are making decision in Germany, in the UK, United States, they live in a very peaceful environment. So there is a specific procedure. If it used to take 3, 4, 5 months to get from decision to actual action, this is what it takes. So there is not that many politicians who came to Ukraine and see how the things are flying over our heads. So they didn't change the procedure, how those decisions can be made to the point where the stuff should be delivered. The other point, despite all the help we receive from United States, Canada, and Europe, Russia still produces more shells, 200 or 200 something % more shells than Europe and all our allies combined. So I definitely agree. And everyone was laughing at Russia. Oh, by the way, they're using the Russian T-34 tanks. But that's the point, because first of all, T-34 tanks are adapted to our environment. They can deploy 1,000 of them, and when we see 2 Leopard tanks, no, thanks to 4 Leopard tanks, but they're useless. They drown in the mud, and they're not that manure as they're supposed to be. So the point, and this is what happened in the first couple of months of 2024, we didn't have the air defense missiles, and what happened? This is what we see the results. Within the 5 months, we had more energy. Or 3 months, we had more destruction than. I mean, we were thinking, oh, 2022 winter was awful. Actually, it wasn't. Yeah,
yeah, worse.
Yeah.
So let's move. Did you want to say something? Please.
Yeah, like I completely agree with. I completely agree with my colleague, but like, just start to the discussion. Yeah, like the world which is helping us moving slowly than we would like to have. They are not so agile as we are. They're not so digitalized or like can have like bold decision overworked, you know, like to deliver the result. But like what I felt, like first I felt that in the Munich Security Conference on February, like I came there like without like any expectation, but like I felt that these bureaucrats, you know, these deep state people, like you spoke about the political leaders who need to be brave and take. I felt these deep state people who is, you know, they're eternal, you know, like political leaders change, and deep state is something that is providing them with the solutions and papers. So they are kind of like they are changed. So they are trying to speed up. They understand the urgency, and unfortunately, because of loss of life of many Ukrainian soldiers, loss of Avdiivka, they understand that, and the Trump could win and leave Europe with the war in the center of continent without munitions. So like it speed up the process, not the way we would like them to be speeded up, but like we feel the kind of the positive track, and like taking out Ukraine, like when Ursula von der Leyen came here like half a year ago to give us the next green light on next session. She told, this is also like off the record, so that before she had a meeting with the Balkan states, and they somehow accused her like of giving political preferences to Ukraine, and she said like, I took my report of the European Commission, like a big book, saying like Ukraine delivered during the war like more than you without the war. So like this is also like changes us, like changes our procedures. You know, we will be more agile, and we believe that we will win this war. Like even though it will be really hard for us this winter, next winter, but it will change us like to become more, you know, like more stronger, more better.
Efficient, right? So moving to the next topic, talking about protection, that's critical. Protect what we have so it doesn't get worse. What do we do between now and the winter, right? I mean, in my presentation noted importing electricity, if we can import more than what we've done, importing generators, green initiatives, solar, wind, etc. What can we do? I mean, it's middle of June. We have several months. What can get done and how?
And one little thing. So there was the energy expert confirmed that before the heating season, Ukraine can restore approximately 200, 250 megawatt of generation, which is 7% of required. I mean, if that's true. So of required 3.5 gigawatt. So basically we can add 1.2 gigawatt of energy capacity by the winter. And yeah, we can add, but by the next year, but this is only 35% of the needs of the country. So what actually should be our short-term goals, or how can we save this situation?
Yeah, probably I will start, and Vladimir will continue. The recipe is pretty simple. First of all, I will repeat air defense, 1. Second, restore and rebuild what we can rebuild. The thermal generation, hydro, CHPs, substations for transmission of electricity. And here I can say about our company, we are going to restore up to 50% what we had before the March 22nd, not more. Before March 22nd, we had 5 gigawatt of installed capacity available. Right now we have less than 300. And if there is no effective, efficient, but we lost 400 yesterday.
Jesus.
So again, because there is no air defense. So the maximum that we can do this up to 3 gigawatt that we are going to recover. Again, if it's protected.
It's protected.
Because we did it several times already. Just the monkey job in some respect. So the third would be to increase the import capacity. Vladimir probably will talk about this more details because he knows better. The fourth, of course, Ukraine will bring and should bring all possible means of generation. Gas turbine, generators, engines, whatever may produce energy. And that will help crucial infrastructure, some facilities, but definitely will not be able to substitute lost 9 gigawatt. It's just making some crucial facilities running. Because, look, the biggest problem, not electricity in the flats. Take Kyiv. The biggest problem is absence of not even heat, absence of sewage and water. If you sit in the flat without electricity, it's fine. You can get somewhere, bring some power charge. But if there is if your toilet does not work, then forget about staying in that apartment. And the fifth one, that will be the distributed generation that will start developing. We see a huge demand on that, basically. The solar panels, heat pumps, whatever means of energy that people may install in their houses. However, that's mainly applicable for the houses, to be honest, because in the flats, you just you don't have roofs enough to install enough capacity. So all those 5 things that should be done as quickly as possible, and that will help us in the winter.
Volodymyr, especially on the import side, maybe.
Import is not.
Oh, it's working.
It's working.
Yeah.
Import is currently 1.7 gigawatts, and base case scenario will be able to elevate it to 2.2, which is not nothing, not insignificant, but also not saving the situation. And in any case, there's no big system on the continent that can be fully dependent on imports. I understand that for people that are fearing next winter, I will and thinking that we can, like, if we imported 8 gigawatts, we could cover all our needs. I have 2 bad news. First of all, technically, there are physical limitations to push through the power from Europe to Ukraine. If you need like extra gigawatt of imports, you need to build transmission lines, and it takes years, if not decades, in Europe to obtain needed permits, licenses to pass through certain communities and land. Secondly, if we do not start to roll out new generation, every next winter will be worse. So it's absolutely useless to pretend that we have only one winter in front of us. We have, hopefully, all of us have many, many winters to come. And if we do not start now, because everyone is now focused on bringing generators, but look, even big generator of 500 kilowatts, how many of them you need to compensate for 3 gigawatts loss, 4 gigawatts loss of generation? How many? Thousands. Next winter will be tough. Yes, we can make it a little bit softer by increasing an import a little bit, by protecting capacities which are being recovered, so that we may have a little bit, couple hundred megawatts more on thermal power plants or hydropower plants which are also being recovered, all of them. And we maybe will install certain generation in the system, but this will not be enough to compensate all 9 gigawatts of power, which...
It's like patching holes.
It's just making this power outages a little bit shorter and more digestible. We talked with Dmitry about the science of power cutting customers, because there are really some important milestones that when you go beyond certain volume of disconnection of customers, it becomes messy and ugly. So you need to stay within certain limits. How much customers do you disconnect? So the deficit should not be bigger than certain figure which will make this deficit digestible. But if we do not start now, right now, to roll out this new generation, if we do not ensure for the private capital access to the capital, to the funds, and not only, by the way, public funds from G7 plus countries, I'm talking about commercial banks that have to have certain guarantees to finance projects in Ukraine, we will not be able to make winter of 25-26 easier. It will be worse. And I agree with Mitro. You cannot roll out decentralized generation in a centralized way. You cannot create like Ukr biofuel gas peaking Energo, which will be dealing with 500 smaller power plants. Because nobody in this country virtually knows how to deal with gas peakers, because you know what? There are 0 gas peakers currently in the system. So we need private capital to be involved. And not only, with all due respect, we're not talking only about DTEC here. We're talking about 50 companies maybe that should enter the market and start building something.
Even more, I guess. If there is conditions created, I'm sure that more companies will come. It's definitely. And just a comment regarding the capital. Look what's happening right now in the banking system. What is Ukrainian banks are profitable? Hugely profitable. Right. Why? Because they keep capital, and what they do with that capital? Give to the National Bank of Ukraine. Why? Because the rate is 13.5%. So it's easier to give this money to the National Bank of Ukraine, make 13.5%, inflation, let's say 3 officially. So the difference, profit, is 10%. So the external financier comes and say, hey guys, so you come to me, ask for the capital, and your banks are sitting on the huge piles of money and don't finance the industries, right? Correct. It means that they are more risk adverse than us. Are you kidding? Seriously?
That's
nonsense.
Ridiculous.
Nonsense.
Ridiculous.
Just from a economical point of view, and do you know? Do you think that nobody knows that? Everybody knows that, right? Do we see any actions?
No.
No. Why?
So
just like quickly on energy decentralization, I like this topic. This is indeed like something which coincides with the EU accession, but it's also about, like now it's about survival. But like in Europe, it's about, smart grids, about we are cutting the supply, like the customer, but it's about the, like consumer management, about how you balance it, about lots of important innovation stuff. But like we are now speaking about, surviving the winter. And how to do the decentralized energy, where indeed it should be a private investor who will agree with the local authorities, try to find like here we will compost garbage, or like we'll find some local biofuel, but like something, and it will earn money. But like nevertheless, like we have now state champions like like Ukernafta, who signed a lot of memorandums in Berlin and will start doing something. We'll like I guess like we will roll out something with the state. Whether it's good or bad, like let's see. But like I definitely believe that we will have room for a private business who will invest in their money on energy decentralization.
Alexei, I have a question. So Ukraine Business News. I mean, I've just in 2 words. I have a lot of companies contacting us and, hey guys, we would like to see what's the opportunities in Ukraine. The companies who've never done business before. But anyways, and we have access to lots of companies, foreign organizations. We're speaking to them daily. So one of Ukraine energy companies has a 55 megawatt wind power plant. So, and they ask me, Andrew, is there any projects that we can implement? We have funds, and I spoke with a Finnish company, American company, Canadian company, and I was like, yes, there is a plan. The project is ready. It was analyzed, due diligence is done, everything is a 55 megawatt in Pre-Carpathians. The look at the project, the look at the wind strength, it was 6.7 something. Oh, that's not as strong as enough as in Odessa and stuff like that. So we show them IRR of this project. They look at that IRR. They looked at it. Okay, it cost 70 million euros to build that project. They calculated IRR. I was like, look, guys, it's the same as we have in United Kingdom. Why I should take the risk, invest in Ukraine with the risk? And maybe my question is, we understand there is some projects are better than others. We get it. But shouldn't be maybe some incentives from the government? For example, you won't pay tax for the next, for example, 2 years, but please come to the country. And I'm asking you, the guys, you know the industry, so please comment on that, because I've dealt with that situation personally. And this company was like, what's the point, guys? We want to help you, but go ahead.
Can I try to answer the question that you might have been struggling to answer to your correspondent? First of all, to build a wind park in UK, I don't know, but let's say in Northern Europe, it may take you a few years just to wait until the grid will be available. Just to start, right? Then current price for the energy on the market, well, tomorrow we have Saturday, a weekend, and price in Europe goes down like to 70, 60 euros per megawatt hour. In Ukraine, we have 120 tomorrow, okay? 120 euros per megawatt hour is higher than recent wind projects had when they had this feed-in tariff scheme. So, according to our estimates that we've done at War&Energy, virtually every technology can provide decent payback in Ukraine, much more interesting than in Europe. If also you, for example, build balancing capacity, you can be paid 150,000, 160,000 euros per 1 megawatt just for your readiness to balance the system, just for your existence, actually. And there is no debt on this segment of the market. And that makes your project very, very profitable, because we analyzed how much do they pay in other destinations. We pay like 5, sometimes 10 more than some other countries in Europe. Poles, they did first auction and they received a very high price for this readiness for balancing capacities, but they will likely to cancel it. But in other countries that are doing this all the time, that sell ancillary services to power system operator, these prices are much less lucrative than in Ukraine. The thing that we lack is bankability, but also access to capital. And we need to make sure that Ukrainian commercial banks, I spoke with one CEO of big international bank chain that is present in Ukraine, CEO of Ukrainian branch, and he told me, look, if you show us economic case that we can believe the financial model that is described to us, then you probably will need less financing from BBRD or World Bank or others, because commercial banks would finance it. But they need also some instruments to deal with the risks, so that interest rate would not be 30%. So I think that on one hand, the economic conditions for these projects to be rolled out in Ukraine, to be more profitable in Ukraine than in other destinations, is being built now. But what we lack for the private business to access to the capital that will increase the speed at which this new generation will be rolled out.
I spoke to DFC, and the DFC said, guys, no problem. If you have 50% of equity, we're ready to support you and provide the war risk insurance. But when you speak to investors who can provide,
this is the reality check. You know, world right now, it's a big market, right? Every country right now compete against other country for capital.
Correct.
So imagine there is some countries in Europe that's screaming, come to us, invest to us in Ukraine. And imagine somebody who has $1 billion ready to invest, where he will invest those money? Think about that, just practical point of view, right? He will invest according to basic rules of economics, right? Basic rules of finance.
Correct.
Because if you invest, you want this investment be protected physically and legally, rule of law, law enforcement agencies, war insurance. Second, you want the ability to get money back that you are making, right?
Correct.
Currency rules. Right now, private companies could not service our debts, for example. We are in default because we couldn't buy foreign currency for more than 2.5 years to pay coupon to Eurobonds. Who will give you new money against bad money which you couldn't service? Correct. Nobody, because it's against rule of finance. The third one, you see the return. Return is a combination of risks, right, and ability to do something. High risks, unsecured, and potentially unguaranteed return. There are 25,000 examples how you create a scheme to guarantee the revenue of renewables. Take the Argentine scheme, where I don't know whether you know, they created a fund that basically guaranteed the PPA for the compensation for the renewables project if the price of the market goes less than some threshold.
Yeah.
They built more than 7 gigawatts within 2.5 years there. Can we take it from there and bring Ukraine? Easily. Can we take the Texas scheme that built during last 1.5 years 23 gigawatt of sun? Easily. Why not? We just need to stop creating schemes or promises that has no connection to the harsh reality, because we are not competing within Ukraine. We are competing in the whole world for the capital. And until we will think that we may create some unique finance laws or laws of finance, we will never attract capital to Ukraine. Never, ever. Once we start thinking that capital is universal, basically, and we need to compete based on the universal rules of capital economy, capital will come.
Yeah, if I may to add something to this discussion, and I promise to be short because we agreed that football match will be streamed here, and for us, it's
we're gonna have
questions.
but
Really important after the question. Yeah, the answer is quick. If you see the projection of countries who accessed Europe, on the latest accession, like Poland, Baltic countries, they received more investment during their accession than after, and they were more risky investment because. Yeah, you come to the country, you can have some niches you will receive, and you come to the country with lower, environmental standards, lower taxation, whatever. But this country will become the member of European Union, and you will receive lower return on investment, but more guaranteed. This is what Dmitro said. None of these countries, we access during the wartime, but this gives us a huge amount of opportunity. Yeah, indeed, we might have more risky investment currently, who will potentially, I agree, have more return on investment. As for the money, here, one very experienced European bureaucrat came here to do the accession talks, and he said I was the one who was negotiating on Poland, and I didn't I traveled through Poland to come to Ukraine, and I've never been to Poland, for 10 or 15 years. And this country changed so much since I negotiated for the accession, because of the EU money, and I didn't recognize the country. And he said you will be the same in 10 years. Believe me, the amount of money that Europe has, the market that they have, and the amount of opportunities, will definitely change the environment here. Some of the businesses will be dead. They will just wipe out. Some of the businesses will be acquired by somebody. So you need to understand if it's about your risk. So sell your business to somebody who didn't understand it yet, and reinvest to do the investment. But we will see huge amount of partnership with the Eastern European companies who will come to this market, because for them it's really hard to enter Germany market or France market. It's already been settled there, and really hard. We will see a lot of Ukrainian companies investing in Eastern European countries, and they are doing partnership. And I did this even before the full-scale war when I was working with Naftogaz. Like Metro could tell like that, like I'm really proud that like our company is investing now in Europe and doing some of the business projects there. So like we will see this trend. Of course, like it's really hard. Like you heard like our distinguished speaker in the very beginning. But like we have these competitive advantages of being agile, more effective, and like everything. Will be
I agree with you. I had a conversation with a Finnish company. They have $500 million invested in wind and solar power energy. And he came to Kyiv. I met with him. I spoke with him, and he said, "Yes, we already invested in Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, so post-Soviet countries, and we're interested in Ukraine." And I was talking to him, and he was like, we have a lot of experience. We have our technical team. We build the towers. I mean, we do everything, but we still need a partner with their feet on the ground. We just can't, because you have to know the rules of the game, and that's what is going to happen. Okay, I know we're taking a little longer. Guys, do you have any questions?
Yes.
With the mic. I'm asking. Okay.
Can you introduce yourself, please, also?
Yeah. Does it work? I'm Sergei Parovsky, UNIDA. So I just, first of all, I think that what you said at the beginning needs to be really broadcasted about those first and second challenges, about protection and about specifically improving the financial condition for recovery, and again, specifically about guarantees and war insurance. I think it really needs to be articulated a lot, especially between government to government talks, because I can confirm that we've been having communication internal at UNIDA about provision or scaling up the guarantee facility that we currently have, and doing war insurance in the energy sector, or helping you. But I also can tell that there is a lot of cowardice with decision making, and the process takes months, and we're not moving much at the point. But again, it just needs to be articulated, and especially with the fact that, like, for example, an insurance coupon or a guarantee with a cap of 1 million USD may not be enough to make an actual impact for recovery of bigger generation units. But what I didn't hear, or maybe this part was missing, that we also need to pitch for energy efficiency, and energy efficiency between all groups of customers. And maybe this is more to Volodymyr, because there is another idea which hopefully we can later discuss and realize, is this customer balancing, to allow some customers actually have energy supply till certain level. So can we do something there? What kind of equipment may be needed, and how much energy can be saved, so our generation capacity recovery will be less critical? Thank you.
Well, some demand management actions, as you know, we are implementing every day. This is, of course, forced situation, and it's quite hard for us to because we also had a project. We have a project in the pipeline, a large project on demand response. It's configured in a slightly different way that you described. I understand what you're saying. The limit of consumption, then you cut out. But then we have our own projects on certain devices that may be operated by dispatcher using certain software in your apartment. But then the problem is that when you have these power cuts, you have this limit of consumption, if you want it or not, let me say. So it's not tied to the money that you pay for your electricity bill, but rather to these limits are introduced by distribution system operator based on the limits that are delivered to the region by War&Energy. And this is happening, but it's a forced process, and we cannot probably mix the two, or we need to think how we can implement the two. Because if you disconnect an apartment in the course of this rolling power cuts for 4 hours, and then you say, okay, but for the next 2 hours you will be disconnected because of our new demand response project, then it becomes a little bit tough and customers will not be willing to participate. So we need to really discuss how it can be done during this power cuts period. And this period will be, well, all the summer and probably winter. We may have certain window of free of this disconnections in September, October. It still needs to be seen. But it's really challenging to do this during harsh deficit of power.
Thank you.
Maybe just quickly add to that. Energy efficiency, the structural issue of Ukraine, right? For many years, Ukraine was one of the less efficient, energy efficient countries in the world and Europe as well. Why? There is a very simple reason. Subsidized price for electricity. The 100% of consumption splits in three groups: 30% industries, 30% municipal and social, let's say, area, and 30% population. Even now, when the price, the tariff was increased, they pay a bit less than 50% of the market price. You know, when the price was increased, we saw the increase of purchase of the meters with the day and night, you know, the different tariffs jumped 100% just because of one reason: price. Before that, no single intensive worked. So the same with the social sphere. You know what? 50% of them just don't pay. It's easier not to pay rather than install energy efficiency equipment. Period. So when the price will become market price, and second, there will be very strict payment discipline. When you disconnect everybody for the non-payment, everybody will start thinking about energy efficiency.
I agree. When I lived in the United States, I didn't pay my bills. They cut me off, and I had no choice. So, and I swear to God, it's strict, and that's you have to play by the rules. And there is Chris, you'll agree with me. You don't pay. You have one warning, second month, the second warning, and then you're cut off, and nobody's talking to you, and you like running up to this guy who just cut your wires. There was like, sorry, man, pay your bills. That's it. And the next time, will you do that? No, you'll pay your bills.
2 comments on energy efficiency as a person who worked in this sphere for more than 20 years. You can cut and you can control your electricity consuming. You have metering and you can turn it off, turn it off. You can control water, but like you cannot control heat in the majority of spheres. So like you can increase price over a heat, but it will not increase your energy efficiency consumption because of just like a Soviet building style. So, and you know, like you have a lot of us, you know, like the beginning of a spring is already warm, but you know, the city council is still supplying you with the heat. Yeah. And like the more you charge, the more they will earn. So this is like a tricky question, but I would like stick to like one topic on EU integration. There is a principle called energy efficiency first. What does it mean? Like, because I guess it's mistreated here in this country. So in every single decision has been made according to the investment of the new generation capacity, you need to think first and to compare. Maybe you need to invest the same amount of money into the energy efficiency and to decrease the consumption rather than increase the generation productivity. This is like, I guess, for another discussion for the nuclear power generation that might be constructed here or like discussed here. So like what is better to invest into the nuclear reactors or invest the same amount of money into the energy efficiency. But I would say this is another provocative topic for the next conversation.
Yeah. Questions? Right behind you. Right behind.
My name is Leo Chu from KFO. So I just want to clarify some numbers. So about last winter, so how much gigawatts needed last winter and what's expected like for this winter, for upcoming winter? Do I have to repeat?
That's the information that is sensitive and we are not disclosing it.
Okay. Second question about preference business, because now we are seeing like generators like from companies, you know, trying to back up like have a backup source of energy. Is that a trend right now? And if so, what kind of industry is pioneering the trend? Do we know that?
I spoke to probably 30 or 40 companies that are trying to build up small power stations for themselves, because if you compare, when you calculate your return, you compare 7 to 8 hryvnias per kilowatt hour from the grid against your investment, and usually it gives you payback even much nicer than this 4 to 5 years that I mentioned for the to work for the market. So many companies are thinking about protecting themselves from disconnections and also increasing efficiency of their operations by installing their own small, like 2-3 megawatt, 1 megawatt power stations. They're really small, but we need to distinguish them from the generators that you see on the streets, because if you use diesel, your cost of electricity would be 20 grivnas for kilowatt hour, while your cost at the gas piston power plant would be 4. You see, these are all. First is just a diesel backup generator for your fridge not to be, switched off. Second is industrial power station that has to earn money, not just back up your consumption, and therefore the numbers are very different and technologies are different. So Ukraine has a lot of small generators for backup since 22-23 season, but Ukrainian factories, Ukrainian companies are now deploying many small power stations for themselves, and some of them are deploying industrial power stations for the market as well. But what we need to do, we need to scale this up, increase injection of capital into the process. Just like fire, you need to put more gasoline to that, so that we would have not hundreds of megawatts but gigawatts of new power shortly.
Okay, thank you. One more question maybe, and then we'll wrap things up. I have a couple questions for the panel. Yes, Brian. Right here behind you. There you go.
Thanks, great discussion. This is for Dmytro. Max Timchenko is doing a world tour asking the West to give as much as it can to repair and protect the damaged energy structures that DTEC has. Fair question. I hope he succeeds. He probably will succeed. But it's not lost on anyone that DTEC is a private company owned by Rinat Akhmedov, who has a net worth of $7 billion. A Patriot missile system costs $1 billion. By my calculation, at least 2 of Akhmedov's mansions are worth close to $1 billion. So it's also a fair question. It's what is he doing to invest and protect his company, his private company, at a time of war? Thank you.
It's a very easy question to answer. If you have $1 billion right now and go to the market and will try to buy Patriot, you will not buy it. There are no them on the market. Very easy. This is second. If we are talking about what we are doing as DTEC, we as a SCM group, we invested almost $1 billion right now to help Ukraine right now. You may read in the news. Taking the last period of attacks, we invested our own money, restored 10 units, and invested $110 million to restore after the recent attack. Last year, we invested in coal production almost 8 billion grivnas. We produce gas, 150 million euros only for production of gas that we need, all of us, to burn during the winter. Look, this is everybody is doing their job right now. And everybody is spending what we have just to make sure we go through the winter. And we also understand that for the current level of damage that we have is huge, tremendously huge. And all resources that the company has is being pulled into recovery. $350–400 million that we need to spend only to recover 50% of our capacity. Taking into consideration that we don't produce right now, just there is no revenue. So if, again, reality check, populist slogans and things out, and then you will see that everybody is trying right now to do whatever they can to be better prepared for the coming winter.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
we have to wrap it up.
Well, let's just 1 minute just to finalize. For the three of you, the question everybody wants to know, including myself, based upon what we know today, the current conditions, what is your best guess for the amount of hours of electricity we'll have this winter? You don't want to answer.
It would be like, I'm not a voodoo magician, so the range of possibilities is quite high. So no forecast for me, because I always say that forecasting for the winter it's only for some part of the experts that like to do it very much. From 4 to 12 hours, 20 hours without electricity, they can suggest to their viewers, but it will almost fully depend on new attacks. And if somebody can tell me what these attacks will be, what units will be damaged, and to which extent, I will be able to tell you more or less exactly how many hours you will have disconnected in the winter, okay?
Okay. That's helpful to know.
I would join the same statement, because the forecasting right now, it's a very kind of unrealistic thing.
Alexei?
I'm not responsible neither for the generation of electricity or its transmission, so I'm free
The
to
best excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best
I'm free
excuse.
to speak, but like, like with this kind of like question, like sitting here in Kiev, like having like a flows and like backup generation, and like and et cetera, like when you're thinking about our soldiers of sitting in a trench line without electricity at all, and you just like need to wait 4 or 5 hours, just to get your cappuccino or like whatever. So, we shouldn't blame these guys. They're doing like their best, they are earning money out of it. Now it's generating like losses. So they would like to sell their product or transmit the product. But like, I would suggest let us ready to kind of hard condition, and like if it will be better because of the efforts of thousands and thousands like energy professionals here in Ukraine and abroad who invest in money, efforts, dedication, like life will become easy. But if not, like we will survive definitely.
Thank you,
Thank you very much.
Dmitro. Thank you, Vladimir. Thank you, Alexei.
Thank you very much.